is just one place on this planet with so much to offer. Now is the time for you to have the royal experience.
Good morning and welcome to the show. This is Kusile Breakfast Show. How lucky are you to make it to the second day of September and certainly the month of September itself? Happy to be your co-host this morning. My name is Sifiso Ngumalo and I'm with Umtiana. Good morning.
Good morning, Susan. How are you?
Doing all right. How are you?
I'm great. I'm feeling
Fantastic.
optimistic. You know, I think I had a positive or great start, rather, to the month of September.
But I'll tell you what, I'm excited about the conversations that we're having on the show today.
And just to fill you in, we're waking up to some rather disheartening headlines this morning. A devastating landslide has wiped out an entire village in the Mara Mountains in Sudan's west. Reports have it that only one person survived the catastrophe. The destruction left over 1,000 people dead after days of incessant rain. Coming back on the program, the latest economic bulletin for Q2 of 2025 by the Ministry of Economic Planning and Development paints a mixed picture of Eswatini's economy. On one hand, quarterly growth registered at 0.5%, yet year-on-year the economy contracted by 0.3%, a stark contrast now to the 5.6% growth recorded in the same period last year. The fiscal position remains under pressure. Government revenue fell by 1.8% due to a 20.4% decline in SACCO receipts, yet expenditure surged by 24.2%, raising concerns about debt sustainability. Economist Sanele Sibia will help us make sense of this domestic economy that faces a mix of opportunities and vulnerabilities.
Another important conversation we're having this morning, Eswatini is taking center stage as the kingdom gets ready to host over 40 global city leaders under the prestigious ICMA Global Exchange Program. Now, from the Ngwe Directive to the Sustainable Urban Development Seminar, the world will be watching how Eswatini positions itself as a hub of urban innovation and cooperation. We're going to unpack what this means for our towns, our communities, as well as our future. That conversation this morning with the Principal Secretary from the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development, Dr. Simon Zwane. He's going to be with the Community Engagement Manager, Matogoza Twala. That conversation at 7:30, so do stay with us. It's 3 minutes after 6. Let's start the show by looking at what is making headlines this morning.
On the Eswatini Observer this morning, 15 AEC pastors appeal imprisonment. You may recall that's one story that Eswatini TV is following. We were in conversation yesterday with our reporter, Sondo Mlange. On the picture there, you'll see members of the Africa Evangelical Church in prayer outside the Mbabane police station where they went to support the pastors arrested for contempt of court last week. In another story, Eswatini Post and Telecommunications Managing Director exit confirmed as new board appointed by the Minister of ICT, or rather announced by the Minister of ICT. In another story, 80 buses ready to transport Imbali. It's a beautiful day. We are going to see the Imbali regiment making their way to Lusitsini Wa residents later during the day today, which marks the commencement of the annual Umhlanga ceremony. And of course, in another headlining story, new foot and mouth disease outbreak in the Lubombo region. Over 10 dip tanks, farms quarantined as FMD spreads to the Lubombo.
Eswatini Observer Sports, your dedicated sports feed. The first story, shootout heartbreak. That is Seabirds singing swallows there. Quarterfinals combat starts today. And we should be seeing Nsingizini Hotspurs versus Malandi Chiefs at 5 p.m. and Eswatini United versus Ubombo Sugar at 7:30 p.m. In other news, no small country in football, according to Peter Samora Simelane, who has declared that in football there was no such thing as a small country. Another news, 17 goals scored in 8-bet last 16. The 2025 8-bet Trade Fair Cup has already lived up to its reputation for drama and surprises, because we have seen 17 goals that have been scored from open play into the last 16 matches. The last story, no surprises in Mula Sport Trade Fair Cup. The Trade Fair Netball Tournament continued in full swing at the Mavuso Sports Center on Sunday, producing exciting encounters as the teams battled for a place in next Monday's grand finale.
On the Eswatini Daily News this morning, Eswatini has rolled out the carpet for a distinguished multi-sector delegation from the state of Kuwait, visiting Eswatini for 3 days to build stronger ties and look into business and tourism opportunities. As the Eswatini International Trade Fair is in full swing, you are encouraged on page 4, or the headlining article here, that you may visit the Deputy Prime Minister's office stall at the Eswatini International Trade Fair, so to reunite with your long-lost relatives. And ICT Minister tasks new APTC board to turn parastatal around in a year. In another story, Nziga Fagutse is Nurture's 9th council chairperson, as announced by the Prime Minister, Russell Miso Dlamini.
Eswatini Daily News Sport. Birds have been swallowed. That is Mbabane Swallows, in the which is the latest top side to be booted out of the 8-bet Trade Fair Cup after being beaten 2-1 in sudden death penalties by a resilient Manzini Seabirds on Monday night at Mavuso Sports Center. In other news, Leopard earns Tigiti to Green Mamba clash, while internationally, Bayer Leverkusen sack Eric Ten Hag after 2 league matches. Oh my goodness, he's gone.
And those are just some of the stories we're waking up to in print this morning. This is Kusile Breakfast Show. Stay tuned. We have Tinzaba Tesiswati coming up in a moment.
Eswatini TV has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Eswatini Communications Commission. We are committed to reporting news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that does not amount to hate speech or the description of gratuitous violence or explicit sex. For any complaints of our programming, please contact us on 2411-9600 or email info@eswatinitv.co.za. You can also contact the Eswatini Communications Commission on 2406-7000 or write a letter to ECCOM on PO Box 7811 Mbabane. Email address is info@ecom.org.sz.
Phinze sinivusele sinamukela ehlelweni Kusile breakfast show maswati lamahle sitawubuka nathi tindzaba tetfu tesiswati. Ingwenyama ithi umkhosi webutimba ufaka sandla lesibandi ekugcineni imvelo kufaka ekhatsi tilwane nemahlathi ukuthi kuhlale kusesimeni lesikahle. Ingwenyama ithi lokunye ke kungaba ngetulu kwalokunye imvelo ayibese iyonakala. Ingwenyama iphefumule esigodlweni yehlane ngelisonto kusihlwa ngesikhathi libutfo lebutimba lingena emkhandlweni. Umkhandlo webutimba ungenelwe bantfu abenkosi nesivakashi semakhosi umbhishapi Nicholas Duncan Williams waseGhana.
Kusukela uqala umsebenzi webutimba emajaha akhombe kuba dingwazi njengoba etijabulisa netilwane labuya nato atetfulele inkosi. Bucawa belibutho sebudunyiswe ingonyama emkhandlweni logidwe ngelisonto kusihlwa. Umkhandlo ube muhle emajaha agidza tingoma tebutimba nengonyama kanye nesivakashi semakhosi Archbishop Nicholas Duncan Williams. Libutho limunye lwati kiyo ingonyama ngelisiko lebutimba tinjengotalo kutemihambo namasiko nesandla lelisifakako ekugcineni imvelo.
Ubonakele ukuthi sifuna sibuyele emuva ubutimba yini bekwendani ubutimba ngoba labanye ndibaye bacabanga ngebutimba ukuthi ubutimba kudingela nje kuphela kanti ubutimba akusiko kudingela kuphela majaha. Butimba ushisa tikhotsa nanjalo ngaleti khatsi njengoba nasekubonala usisa kutawuthwala lihlobo sesisuka busika la bekomise khona bese ke kuyabonala ke ukuthi ke imvelo itosi ibukeke ibe yinhle ifuneka bese kanja ke kuyawushiswa tikhotsa majaha. Nani buka nje lemvunulo lemvunulwako njoba nje lapha ni nani hisile kubonala ukuthi kufakwe emadweshu emlilo bomejiso kusho ukuthi kwakungona kuchaza ukuthi ke nase kufikwe ehlathini kufikwe kushiswe tiganga njengoba lo nyaka nje livukilele lo siko lekushisa tiganga majaha. Yebo ke lapha nani shisa tikhotsa ngoba nishisa tikhotsa nikhanze ukuthi kunetinyamatane na kunetinyamatane ke tifuthwa imfuthu bese tiyathuka ke setibheka ngalanga kini leto tinyamatane lesetibhekela ngakini sengitona ke ndiqoboshela lo lena sevela ifuthwe imfuthu sengilapho ke nembala kubonakala ukuthi kuyasetshenzwa.
Ingonyama ithumise libutho ngekuhlonipha umlayeto wekungadingeli tilwane letiligcabho lelive yabuye yalihlomisa nangenhlakanipho yekudingela.
Netinyamatane ke majaha na kudingelwa kuye kwatiwe ukuthi kunebantwana kunabomake kunabobabe empini ke emvama vele kubimikiswa bobabe hayi bomake nebantwana na ubona umntwana noma ubona make uvele bubuya la qathini wena ngeke bengisolo ngibuka lokho kepha nase kungibabe sekuliqhegu nekuba liqhegu so yabona lokhu sekuqedza netshani ke lokhu kuyamosha ngulapho ke nemajaha bese nembala se uyabonakala ke kepha ke ngoba phela Butimba na kuye kubuke ngoba naboma ke kukhona ukubona sengigogo lona naye sokuqedza emanangu tshani uyamosha umoshela letinyamatane letisetinsha asale sikhweta kepha ke ungabe sekugqwala bogogo kakhulu kungasagqwali bomkhulu kuse tinyamatane njengoba nibuka manje ngibonile lapha tanzile leti tesifazane ukuthi ke sekudeni leti tesilisa ukuthi kubukwe nanato ukuthi lapha nanibuka nibobuka kubonakale
ingonyama ithi busahamba tiganga letahlukahlukene ebutimba ikunakile ukuthi sekunetinyamatane letingasabonakali lesetingeke titfolwe natitukulwane letilandzelako ingonyama seyinikela ababuka ekugcinwa kwemvelo eveni umsebenzi wokwakha luhla lwaleto tilwane lesetinyamalala kuqopheke umlandvo kwagcwaliseka nesiprofetho lesithi leSwatini liyipulpiti ye-Afrika ngesikhathi libutho lidla umculo emkhandlweni kutsite ngemva komthandazo wembhishobhi Robert Kasari welibandla le-Jesus Calls Worship Center ingonyama yanika Archbishop Nicholas Duncan Williams welive leGhana lowatiwa mhlaba wonke ngetinshumayelo takhe letivusa tindvunga letiwile njengobe kwenteka eJericho lithuba lelingakavami lekushumayela phambi kwamakhosi uBishop uthi uthunywe ngemaZulu ukuthi akuthade eMaswati ukuthi avikele bunye bawo netimiso tebuve bawo uthi kufika kwakhe kuleli kwende wabona ukuthi leSwatini linentsandvo eliningi lengaphilisa iAfrika yonkana
to realize that you are a very blessed people.
Kutsi niconze kutsi nibantu lababusekile.
You are very blessed.
Nibusekile.
You are very favored.
Nineke nithenje uNkulunkulu nendele umusa. Hallelujah.
I am speaking as your cousin from the other side of Africa.
Ngikhuluma njengamzala wenu lobuya kulelinye ilizwe laseAfrika.
Sometimes you don't know what you have until you lose it.
Lesinye isikhathi anathi lelinako kuze kunilahlekele.
And I must tell you that you have something.
Kufuna nginitshele kukhona lelinako.
You have something that so many African countries don't have.
Ninendvo lamanye emeve Africa lede yona.
Because Africa needs the kind of democracy you have here.
Africa iyawudzinga lombuso lenawo nini.
Because what we are using right now is not working.
Lele sikusebenzisa kuthina akusebenzi.
We are fighting one another.
Siyalwa sodwana.
We are killing one another.
Siyabulalana.
We are destroying one another.
Siyabhubhisana.
As wealthy as Africa is,
njenga iAfrika icebile,
the kind of democracy that we operate in
le democracy lesebendako
is not helping us.
ayisisidi.
It's dividing us.
Iyasihlukanisa.
And I want
ingonyama yemukele umbhishobhi ngemicimbi wesidle sakusihlwa longenelwe sigodlo indvodzakati yakhe umbhishobhi ihlabelele ingonyama
All my life you have been faithful, and all my life you have been so good. With every
libika kwethu indzabeni ngisandile emakhanya nazwela masuku esigodlweni ehlane
ingonyama seyinike Butimba ukuthi butingele endukuza magedla lokho kulandzela ukuthi umkhosi weButimba uhlanganise emalanga la imfica Butimba ke bukhokhwe ingonyama esigodlweni ehlane bungakadingeli
elangeni lekuqala enyangeni lensha inyanga yenyoni libutho liqhubekile nekufaka emandla emkhosini weButimba esigodlweni ehlane uButimba buphumele khona esigodlweni bakhokhwa ingonyama licala ngekhola lona libutho egidzeni tingoma teButimba isingethwe esigodlo nabantu benkhosi kwekugidza ingonyama ibe seyiyabukhipha butimba ngendvuna agcome entanyeni Magagula.
Butimba beyaphuma nyalo. Naphuma ngobedu yamangeda. Naphuma yamangeda. Kushiswa khosa. Laphuma umuntu leuma esikhumeni. Lapho bekelwe khona. Usozala ngosozoma wabatoloto wabasebenele. Sithindwa dadesa sasabamba. Mina ngizama ukuthola ukufala amakhaza amadoda.
Libutho liphumile kanjalo esigodlweni lalibhekisa enduku yamangedla lapho ingonyama beyikhombe ukuthi litingele khona. Kuqaleke kwathabuka inkhanyeti talandzela naletinyeti honco kwahlukahlukana kwato.
Ngakhanza msholo ugaleli nyama
Utimba bube nemshuqelo muhle letsite uma bufika enduku yamangedla bashisa sikhotha bungakadingeli. Emva kokubabela libutho ligidze tingoma temgubho lingakaqali kutingela. Ingonyama ibe seyiyabunika butimba ukuthi butingele ngembutho lomkhulu uhulumende. Ibutho livele laphoseka ngemandla ehlathini lacala kona kutingela. Lokwakha lo msebenzi ukuthi ube muhle sibili kusukela waqala ukuthi emajaso lo ayihlonipha ngelihlelo khona yonke imithetho lebheke ukuthi ahambe ngayo lefaka ekhathi umlayedo ukuthi angadidingeli tilwane letiligcabho lelive. Bika kwethu indzabeni ngisandile Makhanya anathemba mamba enduku yamangedla.
Umhlonishwa ndvunankhulu Russell Miso Dlamini sokumemetela libandla lebacondzisi benecha lelitawuholwa nguNtsika Fakutse longusihlalo. Lelibandla litawuba sehhovisini iminyaka lemithatfu. Ndvunankhulu uthi leli bandla linemisebenti wekubuka ke lokunengi lokufaka ekhatsi kulwane kwekuthi njalo ngeminyaka babati inkulungwane letine bantfu labatfola i-HIV lapha eveni.
Leli bandla licale ehhovisi mhla ka-25 enyangeni lephelile kanzi lifaka ekhatsi emalunga langu-14 labuya etinhlangothini letahlukene. Umhlonishwa ndvunankhulu Russell Dlamini uthi leli bandla lelifaka ekhatsi emalunga lamasha nalakake abakhona itolo linemsebenzi lomkhulu ekulweni nekwanza kwe-HIV eveni noma tinyathelo tekuyincoba tibonakala.
Our national data shows that about 13% of the people in the country who are aware of their HIV positive status are not on treatment. We need to find these people and ensure that they are linked to care. Furthermore, we have an estimated 4,000 new cases of HIV infections per year. And our data shows that most of these new infections are amongst our young people, particularly adolescent girls. and young women. We need to strengthen our prevention efforts to ensure that we preserve lo mliba loya empili.
Sihlalo waleli bandla Nzika Fakutse uthi ngekubambisana batawenda konke lokusemandleni kuthi bangalendeli phasi live.
We are grateful, Your Excellency, that in the Council we have ensured that we have very good skills, expertise, and experience in the form of the returning members of the Council to ensure that there's continuity and nothing is left behind. Ours is then to ensure that we take it from here and deliver on the mandate that is set before us, and we do trust that we will serve as desired.
Emalunga lamanye aleli bandla Sifiso Dlamini, Pauline Dlamini, Hani Dlamini, Eric Sayama, Nhlanhla Nhlabathi, Penwell Gina, Khanyisile Dube, Dr. Siphelele Msane, Umfundisi Zakaria Mthethwa, Zanele Nonhlanhla Dlamini, Dr. Nondumiso Ncube kanye na Victor Nxumalo. Leli bandla liniketwe nemsebenzi wekubuka kabusha kusebenta kwenature nemtsetfo lowengamele kusebenta kwayo. Leli bandla lingena ehhovisi nje kufanele lilwe kuqinisekisa ukuthi eMaswati labalelwa ku-200,000 lane HIV ayafinyelela emaphilisini ekutsintsibalisa leli gciwane ikakhulu esikhatsini lapho live libhekene netinkinga tekushoda kwemaphilisi nemithi kanzi nelusito lwemali yekutsenga lamaphilisi lebuya emaveni nasetinhlanganweni tangephandle ingasiyo lengatsenjwa ukuthi itawuhlala ikhona. Loku kubonakale nange-United States of America levale lusito lwemali loluya kulamanye emave. Lobikako ngithemkosi Mavimbela, eMbabane.
Indvuna yetekuchumana umhlonishwa Savannah Maziya setfulela ibandla lebacondzisi beliposi Eswatini Post and Telecommunications Corporation. Sihlalo waleli bandla ngummeli Kwanele Makagula. Kanti leli bandla litawuba nemsebenzi wekufuna licebo lekwekuthi liposi likhone kwakha imali.
Indvuna yetekuchumana umhlonishwa Savannah Maziya ithe nayibeka leli bandla yaveta ukuthi umsebenzi walo kutawuba kubuka ukuthi le nkampani yahulumende yemaposi netincingo iyakha kanjani imali. Indvuna ithi iyati ukuthi emaposi mhlaba wonke anenkinga yekwakha imali ngenxa yokuthuthuka kwetebuciko noko kufanele kutholakale indlela yekuthi le mali yakhiwe.
We're all aware globally that post offices are struggling, that the old model of a post office of mailing letters is no longer one that is viable commercially. We need to be able to come up with ideas and be able to deliver projects as well as partnerships that can move this institution forward. We shouldn't be afraid to look and see who we can work with, whether it's here or elsewhere, that can assist us. We should be able to sit down and really have you all understanding the urgency of getting this institution going.
Emalunga leli bandla Kwanele Makagula longusihlalo Sibusiso Mzebele, Sipho Dlamini, Lindiwe Dlamini, Mbali Sibanyoni, Sakhile Dlamini kanye naThulile Gametse. Lomunye umsebenzi loniketwe leli bandla nguloyo wekubeka umcondzisi wale nkampani kulandzela ukuthi seyide. Leli hovisi litawuba sehhovisi iminyaka lemithatfu kanzi lifika esikhatsini lapho le nkampani ide imali labanye bathi ayivalwe kanzi futhi inemsebenzi lomkhulu wekufaka ifiber ledulile kulandzela ukuthi ikhopha iyebiwa eveni lonke. Lobikako ngithemkosi Mavimbela, eMbabane.
Indvuna yelitiko letekwatisa nebuchwephesha umhlonishwa Savannah Maziya ivakashele esakhiwo sekukhangisa embukisweni saleli tiko lapho indvuna ikhombiswe tebuchwephesha lobehlukene. Indvuna ivakashele nendzawo yekukhangisa emsakato wetitfombe Eswatini TV. Kanti umsakato wemoya kanye netinkampani letifaka ekhatsi indzawo yetekucubungula iRoyal Science and Technology Park kuletinye nato utivakashele. Indvuna itfumise leminye imisebenzi lemihle lekhangiswako. Labo labanetibhamu letingekho emthethweni sebangacala batilethe etiteshini temaphoyisa letidvutane nabo angeke baboshwe. Umphathi wemaphoyisa Manoma Masango uthi kubuyiswa kwaletibhamu kungayiphephisa imimango. Okuvete lokhu umasukumisa ngalokusemthethweni umkhankaso wekuvulela abantu litfuba lekubuyisa letibhamu kule nyanga yaSeptember.
LaKangwane lisekela umkhankaso wenhlangano yebunye bemave ase-Afrika i-African Union wekuthulisa tibhamu ngemnyaka wa-2030 ngekuthi livule litfuba lekuthi bantfu labanetibhamu letingekho emthethweni batilethe kule nyanga lesetulu. Umphathi wemaphoyisa Manoma Masango uthi eminyakeni lophelile emaphoyisa atfola tibhamu letinyenti kakhulu nabatiphenyela.
Declaration ngenyanga yaSeptember ukuthi bonke abantu basarende tonke tikhali lebanato letingabatibhamu noma tinhlaba batisarende kude latawuboshwa ngeke size sisho ukuthi silethwe ngibani kude latawuprosecute. So-ke singemaphoyisa sifuna nje kuninika lesiciniseko Maswati ukuthi nangishwele inyanga yashwelele kepha nangabe kusho ukuthi kwendekile wathi khanza ukuthi uhledi nalesibhamu nama leyo ma-arms langekho emthethweni. Nakuphela le nyanga yaSeptember vele-ke sesitawuchubeka singemaphoyisa sende ma-operations sifake eliphikithi la sitawufuna khona tibhamu sititfole kangangoba naseminyakeni lophelile bekukhona lokho ukuthi kule nyanga le Maswati akatisarende letibhamu letingekho emthethweni. Kepha nje kuyasijabulisa singemaphoyisa ukuthi linye eliswati labona kufanele ukuthi lisilethe leso sibhamu. Nalo-ke lasiletha sifuna kusho ukuthi kude lalatiko ngaphandle kwethu alizange liboshwa alizange lihambe liyothethiswa licala. Emva kwaloko singemaphoyisa sibe sesithola tibhamu letingamashumi 43 netinhlavu leting-297 letingekho emthethweni nebantfu-ke lesibabophile labanyenti kakhulu.
Lo mkhankaso utawuchubeka yonke le nyanga yaSeptember 2025. Nayiphela le nyanga labatawutfolakala netibhamu letingekho emthethweni batawuboshwa. Kubika Sondomlangeni, eMbabane.
Litiko letemabhizinisi nekutsengiselana selisukumise sikhwama sekwesekela abosomabhizinisi labaseluhlangothini lwekukhicita timphahla ngemali lengu-1.35 million emalangeni. Isukumisa lesikhwama embukisweni we-Trade Fair kaManzini indvuna yelitiko letemabhizinisi umhlonishwa Manqoba Khumalo ichazile ukuthi lesikhwama sitawuba ngaphansi kwenkampani letfutfukisa abosomabhizinisi i-Eswatini National Industrial Development Corporation. Sitaphasana njalo nzabatethu sitawahlola imakethe sitawubuya sicocisane nasomnotfo Sanele Sibiya.
Ngifakela yona. Khona butsotsi lobukhona ufuna kwendiwa la.
Bekusolo ngashinji ngani.
Nango ngombuto wami. Kodwa sesiyabona late ukuthi befuna kula.
Kukhona lapha sibamba khona.
Kunenhloso mina ngitelwa vele kuna provident fund na pension fund. Uthi kolombuto sekanjela ukuthi
uyahambisana lento ngikhothana. Sihlanganiswe la le. Bukwani khuluma ngalento lebasifundisa ngayo lenkhundleni. Nine vele uyabona silwane na hembe nishaya isingisi nanikeva nangiconversion.
Hayi buthi conversion siyama conversion kufana nenguquko lo mantshitho.
Ususi automatic uyekumanywa. Lalela ke. Lethi tinguquko le tinhle hembe nawe silwane. lalela nje inzuzo lalela inzuzo bathi sekude umuntu longeka khona kuba ingcenye yale nguquko sibani lokho ukuthi noma formal sector no informal sector lokho ukuthi nathi thina sisebenza la emakhaya
Sona pensionable
sonke
but call imali tafuna itsingete la
lalela kude imali letha ungeteka yesilwane leyo uvele umqasha akufakela yona nawe uyifaka good lana upgrade kuyamarinedwa lana silwane uyangifaka ukuthi ngithini
Shona gogo ufuna ukutshela mina wena ukuthi nyalo provident fund sitaba ngilo pension fund sitaba betlo provident
ngisho lokho nje
ngihamba khuluma ngeminyaka lapha ukuthi lona 45 kuyela yena ayimfaki lendzaba
bathi kusuka nje ku45 kuya le utawuchubeka wena nale provident fund kodwa ke kuyendansi ku45
senithola le nguquko le
sesengena kulesi nivele nibuyiswa ngala nithi walila kule nguquko
lo sethola siba pensionable so masifika eminyakeni nokupension sisiyakhona kuvela fastelweni
yinhle kakhulu lento lena esibane yinhle
bangasichazeli le
bangulela
kuhle gogo
yebo
Eswatini TV has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Eswatini Communications Commission. We are committed to reporting news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that does not amount to hate speech or the description of gratuitous violence or explicit sex. For any complaints of our programming, please contact us on 2411-9600 or email info@eswatinitv.co.za. You can also contact the Eswatini Communications Commission on 2406-7000 or write a letter to ECCOM on PO Box 7811 Mbabane. Email address is info@ecom.org.za.
Kude lesinye isikhathi ngaphandle kwalesi
aba research bafunze
being risky means ukuthi nalokuwa kwayo kulula
nathi kufuna sente ukukhiqiza lokusembili
When you choose your adventures, you do so with an open heart and a desire for the unexpected. You embark on journeys to discover new worlds full of wonder. You choose a path to awaken your senses, a world to make you look up and realize just how inspiring this life can be. Arrive and awaken your heart. Explore life in ways only thought possible in your dreams. Discover just how far you go to expand your understanding of life's greatest mysteries. There's just one place on this planet with so much to offer. Now is the time for you to have the royal experience.
Welcome back. You are still watching Kusile Breakfast Show right here on Eswatini TV. We'll turn our focus now to the second quarter economic bulletin released by the Ministry of Economy Planning and Development that shows that domestic real gross domestic product GDP grew by 0.5% on a quarter-on-quarter basis. However, real GDP contracted by 0.3% on a year-on-year basis. Economist Sanele Sibiya joins me now via a video link for insights on these figures. A very good morning to you, Sibiya. The economy grew by 0.5% quarter-on-quarter, but rather contracted by 0.3% year-on-year. What exactly explains this contradiction?
Thank you, Notlende. Good morning to you and good morning to the viewers. So what we're seeing there is basically the Eswatini's growth story, which is somewhat expected on a year-on-year basis and a quarter-on-quarter basis. Considering that we're also moving into the farming season, and then we're moving into the harvesting season. So you do expect the gross domestic product to grow by that much. But what else we're also seeing is, the impacts of or the knock-on effects of the South African economy on the Eswatini economy, where we're seeing that once there is a bit of contraction in the South Africa side, we also do feel those impacts, because you would know that South Africa is one of our major trading partners and also is one of our key anchor partners. So we know those movements in South Africa are also going to be quite pertinent to the Kingdom of Eswatini. And it also speaks to larger global trends. For example, what we're seeing on the global front with China, India going a bit green in terms of their energy portfolio, and the overall price of coal going down. So that actually translates to a contraction within the mining and the mining subsector. Then we've seen that, and we've seen the impacts of those within the within the domestic economy. So it's a mix of both those, domestic, regional, and international, movements that we are seeing across the globe, and convoluting to give us this growth story that we are seeing. And also it speaks to a fragile recovery, in as much as we are looking at a recovery in the economy, but it is largely driven by by those capital projects. That's your Mbageni Dam project, the ICC and Fish project, and quite a number of projects on the ground. So it also has to dovetail with those and how fast those are going to move.
If the progress is influenced rather by a positive outlook in agriculture sector and construction, the bulletin reports that business credit grew in agriculture, that is 12% positive, and construction 6% positive, but a decline in tourism, that is at 13%. What do these trends reveal about business confidence, particularly in these sectors?
What that basically reveals is it just dovetails with what the growth projections are saying and where we expect that growth to come from. If you look at the current year's budget, we have about 7 billion that goes towards capital expenditures, and those are the mega projects that we are talking of. So you do expect credit towards the construction sector to increase because of that. And also, we do know that there is quite a lot happening around the Lucy project down there, and we do expect those, that credit to the agricultural sector would also increase in line with the national projects that we are seeing and the national projects that we are currently executing as a country. And also, if you look at the overall agricultural landscape, there has been a bit of cooling down in terms of those supply chain disruptions. The Russia-Ukraine war has somehow stabilized, and we are somehow hopeful for a ceasefire. But what we're seeing is there has been a shift in those global value chains, where we're seeing those other countries in those cereal productions, more especially, coming in to fill the gap that was actually left by Ukraine when that war started. So we do expect to see a bit of that increment, and also the seasonality of agriculture. We did experience good rains in the previous farming season, and there is an anticipation that you expect those to continue through, and we had a good water supply. So that somehow also ensured that agriculture during the winter season was going to be a bit profitable because of that water storage that was there during that summer season.
Sibia, the report notes that the tertiary sector, or service sector rather, expanded, although there was a bit of a contraction when it comes to some primary and secondary sectors. To you, does this suggest perhaps a long-term shift towards a service-driven economy? What were the main contributions to the growth of the tertiary sector? Perhaps we could start there.
So one of the main contributions for me, number one, would be, the cooling of tensions in the global financial landscape, where we've seen the central bank, coming down with low interest rates, and there's a bit of stability within the sector right now, more especially coming towards Q2 of 2024, where we've seen that the overall tariffs that President Trump was threatening, if the overall effective tariff was a bit lower than what one expected, and we're seeing this general stability within the financial sector. So that's what may have led to the growth within the sector. And overall, what you'd also expect is there would be shifts, and you would expect that countries would want to somehow, reestablish and, regain a bit of ground. So that's why you would see a bit of an expansion in that sector, and, expanding towards providing services that were somehow, when you are seeing the shift from that America base to another country base. So we did expect that. So that's the first one that and secondly, what you alluding to is actually an indicator that the economy is moving towards more of a service-based economy. But what the numbers are signaling is there is a bit of structural, imbalances, more especially within the primary sector, because you do expect the primary sector to remain robust in order for it to support the transition into a service-led sector. So it does signal that as a country and as an economy, we still need to do quite a bit more in ensuring that we are able to have a robust primary sector that can then propel and support the services sector. And because what you need is those services to support that sector. So that fragility within the primary sector will also hamper in the short to medium term those gains that we're seeing in the secondary sector.
By examples, Esbia, what do you think are some of the services that perhaps we need to focus on now to drive a robust and more sustainable tertiary industry?
All right, so first up, what we need to make sure that we are able to have a robust primary sector that needs to come in and support that and be supported by that tertiary sector. So what we need to do is, I think if we're to work on our financial services, we've seen quite a lot of movements in that front, and with the central bank's sandbox project, where we are venturing into fintech, because what we need to do now is to find better ways of being able to finance quite a number of the projects that we're doing. And fintech is one of those projects that need to be supported. And then also when we look into the movement and the transition, we've seen the central bank already, license a digital bank in Litseho. So that's going to be the first of its kind in the kingdom, and it's going to broaden the financial sector. And with it, we are going to see more services come through. And one thing that I particularly worry about is the fact that we are moving towards mega projects, and we need our financial sector to to evolve towards being able to support those mega projects. So we do need investment bankers in the country, because what we're looking into is a situation where we have tons of billions of projects that we want to finance, and we need to find ways of getting that capital and face with those those who need that capital, and that is the work of investment bankers. And we do know that that is in the pipeline in the central bank, and we would expect to expedite such. And then also there is a bit of the technology. If you look at our major service import as a country, it is a lot to do with IT. So we need to also either get those tech giants to come in and set up plant in the country and be able to provide that support within the country. So and if we do that, we are now going to be also lowering our trade deficit, because our trade deficit is largely due to the fact that we've been able to account for quite a lot of the services that we are importing as a country, and IT is amongst those top services. And if we can get those services to come and be based in the country, and we've already seen a bit of movement towards that with the Honorable Minister for ICT, partnering, forging those partnerships with the likes of Google. We do need to forge those partnerships with the likes of, Microsoft, to ensure that we can license quite a number of their products domestically, and then therefore we'd have that as a product of Eswatini into the balance of payments, and improving our trade balance, because right now we're seeing a bit of a widening deficit in the trade balance.
Right. Let's get into the headline inflation, inflation overall, which fell to 3.1% in Q2 and is down from 4.0% in Q1. And the inflation focus for 2025 have been revised downwards to 3.7% from 4.8%. How confident should we be in these focus?
If we look at the figures, Notile, this disinflation spiral is gotten to a point where, for example, if you look at what is happening within CMA countries, that is the Common Monetary Area countries, we are seeing an overall move towards a level below the lower end of the band, or the lower end of the spectrum. So at the present moment, we are now at 2.8%, as Eswatini, and South Africa is also around 2.7%. So what that signals is, that the global economy, together with the domestic economies, have actually entered into what we would call a disinflation spiral, or into a disinflation period, where inflation has been consistently going down over the last year. And, there are indications that as we see a bit of cooling in terms of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, we've seen that the Israel-Iran war has been resolved. And we're seeing that there is a bit of movement towards, towards a bit of a ceasefire, or a bit of an ending in the Gaza conflict, because we can see that both the US and the UK and quite a number of the world major powers are now forcing Israel to end that war. So it goes to say that we do expect, those supply shocks that actually led us into a inflationary spiral back in 2023 and early 2024 to have actually eased out, and we do expect inflation to cool off. But we do need to ensure that, the central bank that does everything it can possibly do to ensure that inflation stays within the band, not below the low end of the band and not above the high end. So right now we're seeing a bit of those movements that those numbers may have to be adjusted downwards. And there is still a bit of concern around, overall growth of the US economy, in as much as we have somehow seen a bit of an positive growth being forecast in terms of, the Chinese figures will be projecting around 4.8%, and then the US figures have been projected upwards. So now that shows that overall business sentiment might remain relatively stable. But we are faced with the stagnating story of South Africa that, if not solved, might actually pull us below those numbers. So in essence, to your question, it is to say that we do expect inflation to stay within the band.
In the same vein, the discount rate was lowered to 6.75% and the prime to 10.35%. to 5%. How effective is this policy stance when it comes to boosting economic activity without really triggering inflationary pressures?
What we are seeing there is a bit of a what I'd call a paradox right now. Not necessarily a paradox, but it's more a short-term effect where you lowering both the discount rate and the prime rate goes down, but still inflation continues to go down. So it signals that either we've had a very good bumper season, or there is a bit more that we need to worry about in terms of, stimulating economic activity, in terms of getting people to go out there and actually borrow a lot. And that is actually quite prevalent in terms of when you look at the numbers, when you look at the credit extended to the private sector, you'll see that what people are largely borrowing for right now is, those personal loans, that is unsecured lending, and a bit of vehicle finance. So people are not yet moving back into those mortgages, those longer term type of investments where would really see a bit of economic activity rallying there. So what we're seeing right now is a bit of caution still being exercised by both the banks and the consumers and investors, as we are waiting to see how the long term is going to look like. So the central bank is faced with that delicate task of trying to balance a very volatile short term with longer term expectations of consumers, and while at the same time, we need to also question whether what is the value of the real incomes of the households and the investors overall, because we would expect that with the cuts in interest rates, we were supposed to see economic activity bolstering up. But what we saw at the very same period is a disinflation spiral continuing.
With the growth in household credit, what does it say to you about household financial priorities and instabilities?
So when I looked at the numbers, what I learned and what it said to me, it was, households are still under pressure, in as much as we are seeing these cuts in, the interest rates, which one would expect that households would want to take more credit because it becomes relatively cheaper, right? But what we're seeing is just marginal increase in unsecured loans, and another marginal increase in vehicle asset financing. So what this signals is households are not yet at a level where they are ready to enter into long-term commitments that would be your mortgages. So they're just looking at a very short-term horizon. So that is a signal to the fact that households are still under pressure in terms of the cost of living. Because if you recall, in the last couple of years, what we saw was a very sharp increase in interest rate, post the pandemic. During the pandemic, interest rates had come down to record lows. And then during the normalization drive, what we saw were very sharp increases in the interest rates. And households are still very well aware of that fact. And they've even forgotten that, we saw a point where even though interest rates come down, but eventually they will increase. And at this point, they increased very rapidly and actually, eroding quite a lot of the purchasing power within households. And you couple that with an inflationary period, post the pandemic and, the Russia-Ukraine supply side disruptions with the COVID supply side disruptions as well. So households really are trying to balance right now, ensuring that they are able to get the basic minimums to ensure that they're able to survive.
All right, Asbia, finally, let's get into the fiscal developments as reported by the Q2 Economic Bulletin. The report there has it that government revenue declined by 1.8%. That's mainly due to the no secret SACCO receipts. While, be that as it may, expenditure surged by 24.2%. Can we perhaps see ourselves as a country or the government falling into fiscal stress?
So what we are looking at there is the overall impact of the country's reliance on on SACCO receipts. And when you look at now that increase in government expenditure, when the revenues have actually somehow taken a dip, it just shows that we have, as a country, probably borrowed quite a lot of money this year, and we know that we did take out quite a lot of loans because we really have to rely on deficit financing in this current period. So what then this brings to mind, Kusile, is how are we going to drive growth in the next period? Because this time around, our growth is largely driven by those mega projects, and that injection in terms of government borrowing. So it does bring into mind a worry around whether we are going to be able to sustain our fiscal stimulus to ensure that we are able to grow the economy at the 5% level that we are seeing this year. And the projections are showing that that is not going to be the case next year, and largely due to the fact that we will not have enough scope to borrow in the next coming couple of years, because we will have reached that 40% debt to GDP ratio threshold. So we do foresee a situation where, as a country, we are going to have to be a bit more robust in terms of our fiscal rationalization and fiscal prudence.
Debt was reported at 41% in 2024, Sibia. The issue on SACCO receipts, the dependence, it's nothing new. But an everyday question, how do you think we can mitigate over-dependence on SACCO receipts?
We need to broaden the economy. That's the long and short of it. You need to broaden the economy, increase the number of sectors that are in production, and deal with the issue of this high unemployment rate, because we need people to go back to work and be able to pay those taxes. Because when you look at the numbers, you will realize that payee is actually on an increase, largely due to government unfreezing, as the report would have it. But payee is one of those taxes that government finds easy to actually collect. And then another one that we're seeing the ERS doing is, that presumptive taxing, provisional tax filing, just encouraging, corporations out there to actually really make sure that they comply. So what we also need to do as a country is make sure that we get the informal sector to also comply through that presumptive taxation motive, so that we just, in a way, grow our revenue base to focus more on inward, to be more insular, while we are ensuring that we are continuing the trade, because it does support our budget. But we need to ensure that relative in the budget, it doesn't overshadow the entire budget. So we need to ensure that we get to a certain level, around 20% should come from SACCO. But that requires that the economy grows and grows in ways that creates jobs, so that people can be taxed and that revenue goes back into government coffers. And we need to encourage our people to create businesses so that those corporations get taxed and that money goes back into those government coffers.
Sanele, thank you very much for your insight. That was economist Sanele Sibia, just sharing insights on the recently released Q2 economic bulletin by the Ministry of Economic Planning and Development that indicates that the economy grew by 0.5% quarter on quarter, though with a contraction of 0.3% year on year. This is Kusile Professor. We'll have our English news bulletin coming up after this.
Eswatini TV has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Eswatini Communications Commission. We are committed to reporting news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that does not amount to hate speech or the description of gratuitous violence or explicit sex. For any complaints of our programming, please contact us on 2411-9600 or email info@eswatinitv.co.za. You can also contact the Eswatini Communications Commission on 2406-7000 or write a letter to ECCOM on PO Box 7811 Mbabane. Email address is info@ecom.org.sz.
Welcome back. In our English news bulletin this morning, His Majesty King Mswati III says the Butimba ceremony contributes to the conservation of both animals and forests. The King says nature suffers when there is an imbalance between wildlife and vegetation, as when one grows beyond the other, the harmony of the environment is disrupted. His Majesty was speaking at Hlane while residents on Sunday evening during Umkhandlo, a colorful event that is part of the ongoing Butimba ceremony. The King was joined by their Royal Highnesses and Archbishop Nicholas Duncan Williams from Ghana.
Since the start of the Butimba ceremony, warriors have exceeded expectations, bringing back the finest game. Their efforts have greatly impressed His Majesty, who has heaped praise on them for their heroic acts. The Umkhandlo was marked by vibrant displays of traditional dance, with warriors dancing to Butimba songs. His Majesty took the opportunity to address the nation on the true meaning of Butimba, highlighting its cultural significance and contribution to nature conservation.
Bonakele ukuthi sifuna sibuyele emuva Butimba yini bekwendani Butimba ngoba labanye ndibaye bacabanga eButimba ukuthi Butimba kudingela nje kuphela kanti Butimba akusiko kudingela kuphela majaha. Butimba ushisa khotsa nanjalo ngaletikhathi nje njoba nasekubonala usisa kutawuthwala lihlobo sesisuka busika la bekomise khona bese ke kuyabonala ke ukuthi ke imvelo itosi ibukeke ibe yinhle ifuneka bese kanja ke kuyawushiswa tikhotsa majaha. Nani buka nje lemvunulo lemvunulwako njoba nje lapha ni nani hisile kubonala ukuthi kufakwe emadweshu emlilo bomejiso kusho ukuthi kwakungona kukhaza ukuthi ke nase kufikwe ehlathini kufikwe kushiswe tiganga nje njoba lo nyaka nje livukile lelo siko lekushisa tiganga majaha. Yebo ke lapha nani shisa tikhotsa ngoba nishisa tikhotsa nikhanze ukuthi kunetinyamatane na kunetinyamatane ke tifuthwa imfuthu bese tiyathuka ke sethi bheka ngalanga kini leto tinyamatane lesitibhekela ngakini sengitona ke ndiqoboshela lo lena sevela ifuthwe imfuthu sengilapho ke nembala kubonakala ukuthi awukuyasetshenzwa.
The king praised the warriors for heeding his caution to refrain from targeting the big five animals during the hunt. His Majesty then advised warriors to exercise caution during the hunt, urging them to avoid targeting female and young game.
Ne tinyamatani ke majaha na kutingelwa kuye kwatiwe ukuthi kunebantwana kunabomake kunabobabe empini ke emvama vele kubimikiswa bobabe hayi bomake nebantwana na ubona umntwana noma ubona make uvele buya la qathini wena ngeke ngisolo ngibuka lokho kepha nase kungibabe sekuliqhegu nekuba liqhegu so yabona lokho sekuqedza netshani ke lokhu kuyamosha ngulapho ke nemajaha bese nembala se uyabonakala ke kepha ke ngoba phela butimba na kuye kubuke ngoba naboma ke kukhona ukubona sengigogo lona naye sokuqedza emanangu tshani uyamosha umoshela letinyamatane letisetinsha asale sikhweta kepha ke ungabe segqwala bogogo kakhulu kungasagqwali bomkhulu kuse tinyamatane njengoba nibuka majaha ngibonile lapha tanzile leti tesifazane ukuthi ke sekudeni leti tesilisa ukuthi kubukwe nanato ukuthi lapha nanibuka nibobuka kubonakale.
His Majesty lamented that some animals that were once easily spotted in the country's game reserves now seem to be disappearing. The king has directed conservation authorities to compile a detailed list of the species in decline, which declares that the Bible shall be the foundation of Eswatini, has continued to draw God's messengers from across the world who visit the kingdom to confirm it. Following a brief opening prayer by Bishop Robert Kasaro of Jesus Calls Worship Center, His Majesty invited Archbishop Nicholas Duncan Williams from Ghana to share the word of God. The Archbishop shared a heartfelt word conveying to His Majesty that God had sent him to encourage the nation to protect its unity and safeguard its values, as Eswatini possesses the kind of democracy that is a solution to the whole of Africa.
To realize that you are a very blessed people. You are very blessed. You are very favored.
Hallelujah.
I am speaking as your cousin from the other side of Africa. Sometimes you don't know what you have until you lose it. And I must tell you that you have something. You have something that so many African countries don't have. Because Africa needs the kind of democracy you have here. Because what we are using right now is not working. We are fighting one another. We are killing one another. We are destroying one another. As wealthy as Africa is, the kind of democracy that we operate in is not helping us. It's dividing us.
His Majesty the King hosted the Archbishop to a dinner which was attended by a Makosigati to His Majesty, their Royal Highnesses, and the Archbishop's accompanying delegation. The Archbishop's daughter performed for His Majesty the King. This has been a report by Sandile Makanya and Nzwele Masugu at Hlane Royal Residence.
His Majesty King Eswatini III has commissioned warriors to hunt game at Ndugu Zamagedla as part of the ongoing Butimba ceremony. The commissioning took place at Hlanewa residence, where the king officially authorized the regiments to begin their mission.
On the first day of September, warriors once again demonstrated great zeal for the ongoing Butimba ceremony. His Majesty the King led the warriors in vibrant song and dance at the royal residence, joined by Emakhosikati and their royal highnesses, before commissioning them to march to Ndugu Zamagedla, the designated hunting ground for the day. His Majesty then commissioned the warriors through Senior Regiment Tomentanyeni Makakula. The hundreds of warriors departed the royal residence in a colorful procession. The Inkanyeti regiment led the way, joined by other regiments in vibrant formation. Upon arrival at Ndugu Zamagedla, they carried out the traditional burning of the field. His Majesty the King then formally gave the order for the warriors to commence the hunt, marking a key moment in the day's proceedings. The warriors pressed into the forest, determined to secure the finest game. What has made this year's royal hunt especially remarkable is the warriors' respect for His Majesty's call to spare the Big Five. This has been a report by Sandile Makanya and Temba Mamba, reporting from Ndugu Zamagedla.
The Prime Minister, His Excellency Rasa Dlamini, has appointed members of the Nature Council, which will be chaired by Nzika Fagutse. The council will be in office for 3 years. The Premier says despite the achievements made by the kingdom in the fight against HIV, the council still has to find solutions to the country having an estimated 4,000 new HIV cases annually.
The 14-member council assumed office on the 25th of August, and it comprises of members from different sectors. The Prime Minister, His Excellency Russell Dlamini, says the council, which is a combination of new and returning members, has a huge task in the fight against HIV.
Our national data shows that about 13% of the people in the country who are aware of their HIV positive status are not on treatment. We need to find these people and ensure that they are linked to care. Furthermore, we have an estimated 4,000 new cases of HIV infections per year. And our data shows that most of these new infections are amongst our young people, particularly adolescent girls and young women. We need to strengthen our prevention efforts to ensure that we preserve Lomliba Loya Mbili.
Council Chairperson Nzika Fagudze says they will do all they can to get the desired results.
We are grateful, Your Excellency, that in the Council we have ensured that we have very good skills, expertise, and experience in the form of the returning members of the Council to ensure that there's continuity and nothing is left behind. Ours is then to ensure that we take it from here and deliver on the mandate that is set before us, and we do trust that we will serve as desired.
Other members of the council are Sifiso Dlamini, Hani Dlamini, Eric Sayama, Nhlanhla Nhlabathi, Penel Gina, Kusile Dube, Dr. Siphelele Msane, Reverend Zakaria Mthethwa, Zanele Nonhlanhla Dlamini, Dr. Nondumiso Ncube, and Victor Nxumalo. The council comes at a time when nature is in the process of conducting an organizational review and its act to redefine its mandate and direction. With Eswatini having around 200,000 HIV-positive people, the council has a challenge to find ways of having all of them on treatment at a time when the local health sector has drug shortage challenges. This challenge is coupled with international funding not being guaranteed, as witnessed in the United States of America, where President Donald Trump pulled out funding to some countries. For Eswatini TV News, Temgosima Vimbela, Mbabane.
The Honourable Minister of ICT, Savannah Mazia, has announced a new Eswatini Post and Telecommunications Corporation Board of Directors. Lawyer Kwanele Makakula will chair the board. This board has been mandated to find ways of making the public enterprise profitable.
When announcing the Eswatini Post and Telecommunications Corporation Board of Directors, the Honourable Minister of Information, Communications and Technology, Savannah Mazia, said it will have to find revenue streams to make the entity profitable. The minister said she is aware that post offices face common challenges globally due to evolving technology.
We're all aware globally that post offices are struggling, that the old model of a post office of mailing letters is no longer one that is viable commercially. We need to be able to come up with ideas and be able to deliver projects as well as partnerships that can move this institution forward. We shouldn't be afraid to look and see who we can work with, whether it's here or elsewhere, that can assist us. We should be able to sit down and really have you all understanding the urgency of getting this institution going.
The board members, as announced by the minister, are Kwanele Makakula, who is the chairman, Sibusiso Mzebele, Sipho Dlamini, Lindiwe Dlamini, Mbalisi Banyoni, Sakile Dlamini, and Thulile Kametse. The 7-member board will have to steer EPTC through numerous challenges, which include finances, some people calling for it to be shut down, and installing fiber optic cables across the country in the wake of copper theft. For Eswatini TV News, Temgosima Vimbela, Babane.
The Minister of Information, Communication and Technology, Honourable Savannah Mazia, visited the Information, Communication and Technology Pavilion at the Eswatini International Trade Fair, interacting with innovative entrepreneurs and exploring cutting-edge technology displays. The The minister's tour included stops at the Eswatini TV stand, EBIS, and the Royal Science and Technology Park, among other companies. The minister praised the remarkable efforts underway and encouraged Eswatini to embrace digital transformation as a path to national development. All individuals currently in possession of illegal firearms are strongly encouraged to surrender them at their nearest police station during the Amnesty Month of September 2025. This call was made by the National Commissioner of Police, Manoma Masango, during the official launch of the Amnesty Month.
The Kingdom of Eswatini is backing the African Union's goal to silence guns by 2030. Police Commissioner Manoma Masango says over 80 people were arrested last year for illegal firearms, while only one gun was surrendered.
Members of the public are urged to surrender all illegally possessed firearms without fear of being arrested and prosecuted. It is disheartening to learn that only one firearm was surrendered during the Amnesty Month in 2024, despite that the volume of crimes involving illegal firearms is sky high and a number of innocent lives has been lost. Just statistics from 1st of October 2024 to August 31st, 2025 indicate that at least 95 people were arrested and charged for being found in possession of illegal firearms. Out of the arrested suspects, 81 are Eswatini, while the rest are from the neighboring countries. This is a clear indication that we are faced with a heavy task of eliminating this criminality as a country.
From 1 to 30 September 2025, anyone who hands in illegal firearms will not be arrested. After that, possession will lead to immediate arrest. Reporting Sondomlangeni Mbabane.
Good news for small and medium enterprises. The Minister for Commerce, Honorable Manqoba Khumalo, has officially launched the 1.35 million Emalangeni Production Incentive Scheme 2.0, targeting the textile and clothing sector. During the launch at the trade fair, the Minister announced that the scheme will be implemented under the Eswatini National Industrial Development Corporation in partnership with the Ministry of Commerce, Industry and Trade. This 5-year initiative will roll out in 2 phases. Phase 1 focuses on MSMEs, while Phase 2, starting in the 2026-2027 financial year, will expand to include large companies.
The minister has said the Production Incentive Scheme 2.0 textile and clothing sector has been augmented to provide facilities, namely a 100% grant and an interest-free loan facility for working capital valid for 3 months, as well as inclusion of micro, small and medium enterprises.
Some people may not know about 38% of our GDP is manufacturing in one fashion or form. That is why when you look at manufacturing as a contributor per GDP, we then rank highly on this industrialization index. Having said that, mining is less than 2%, which is a shame given the richness of the resources that we have. Having said that, agriculture, if you include forestry, and citrus and other things, stands at roughly 13%. And most of that is sugarcane.
The Chief Executive Officer of SEDCO, Ketiwe Mhlanga, says this initiative will greatly enhance the productivity and growth of micro, small and medium enterprises in the textile and clothing sector.
This would be very beneficial for them, particularly during the period when they have to produce large quantities of uniforms. and they have to meet those quotas that they are supplying, particularly those schools. So it's quite essential for them to have access to finance.
Meanwhile, the minister has implored businesses operating in the textile and clothing sector to engage with ENIDC in order to access the available support and resources. Reporting, Nelson Dlangamandla for Inkosinzinisa Manzini.
There has been growing talk around the Eswatini National Provident Fund's ENPF much anticipated conversion into a national pension fund and what this means for the Public Service Pensions Fund, PSPF. Reports indicate a level of concern from the PSPF, sparking concerns about overlap, role clarity and the future of pension fund management in the country. Jethro Ndlangamandla, Director of Operations at PSPF, has shared what they believe should happen so that the transition does not cripple the PSPF. This was during an interview on Market View.
The Director of Operations outlines what should happen in the conversion of the ENPF to avoid the collapse of the Public Service Pensions Fund.
As PSPF, we are not opposed to the conversion. Okay. We support it fully. We want our Maswati to have pension after their working period, and that is what everyone wants. It would be madness for someone to oppose that. We don't oppose it. But what we should actually tell people is that we are asking for careful consideration of the transition and the formation of the ENPF conversion. What really is concerning us is the integration of civil servants into the new ENPF scheme, that it must not pose a financial strain to PSPF itself. At the same time, we are concerned that the conversion should not affect PSPF's ability to maintain current benefit levels that are enjoyable by the members currently. If that is in place, we are sure that both funds must remain sustainable and would like that to happen going forward.
He says reducing contributions to the Public Service Pensions Fund for new civil servants when they join the Eswatini National Provident Fund National Pension Scheme goes against the pensions orders. He says it worsens the PSPF's deficit estimated at 2 billion emalangeni in 5 years. Reporting, Nelson Dlangamandla Mbabane.
Set-top boxes are now available at this year's trade fair. Eswatini TV's Namcebo Malinga says even remote controls are available as well for those who have malfunctioning remote controls.
For those who still need set-top boxes or those who have malfunctioning remote controls, can quickly rush to the trade fair where Eswatini TV stand is located and grab them while stocks last. Eswatini TV's Namcebo Malinga encourages customers to quickly come through because they're limited stock and surely they won't be available after the trade fair.
Ama-set-top boxes siyawathengisa nga-350 emalangeni. Nakuloyo ke kumbe ke lo-office ukuthi abe ne-remote control ngoba siyitholile imibiko leminingana ukuthi kunebantu labafelwe ngiwona ema-remote control. Ema-remote controls ke nawo siyawathengisa nga-100 emalangeni.
Namcebo says this has come as a relief for consumers because there's been concerns for quite some time now regarding the shortage of set-top boxes and their remote controls. She says the set-top boxes are selling like fat cakes at the trade fair, which clearly means there was indeed a gap. Reporting IMKN MCB, Manzini.
In other news, Israel claims to have killed Abu Obaida, the spokesperson for Hamas' armed wing, in an airstrike on Gaza over the weekend. He's the latest high-ranking figure targeted as part of Israel's ongoing efforts to dismantle Hamas' military infrastructure.
Yes, the facility is ready and up to standard. We have seating for spectators, we've got seating for athletes. We will even have athletes lounge, VIP area, and the swimming pool itself is heated and is ready for the competition. Currently, we have countries that come in to train on a schedule that we have allocated. So this morning we've got Team Seychelles, Team Eswatini just left the facility. They were also training. We are also looking at opening it tomorrow morning for a training session for all the countries, just so they can get a feel of the competition. And then in the afternoon, we will be getting ready for the official day. And then on the official day, they do have training in the mornings before the competition starts at 9 o'clock. We are really encouraging eMaswati to come out and support us in this competition. We do pay at the gate. It's 50 emalangeni for entry per day. And then if you would like to come the full 4 days, it's 180 emalangeni. You do get a tag that allows you to enter for 4 days.
My apologies there for the mix-up. That outgoing report was Eswatini Swimming Association Secretary General Nozipho Mahlalela saying it is all systems go as the association is ready to host the 2025 Kana Swimming Championships Games from this coming Wednesday until Sunday. And with that, we wrap up our English news bulletin. After this, we are in conversation with the Ministry of Housing.
Eswatini TV has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Eswatini Communications Commission. We are committed to reporting news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that does not amount to hate speech or the description of gratuitous violence or explicit sex. For any complaints of our programming, please contact us on 2411-9600 or email info@eswatinitv.co.za. You can also contact the Eswatini Communications Commission on 2406-7000 or write a letter to ECCOM on PO Box 7811 Mbabane. Email address is info@ecom.org.za.
Kude lesinye isikhathi ngaphandle kwalesi.
Aba research bafunze.
Being risky means ukuthi nalokuwa kwayo kulula.
Nathi kufuna sente ukukhiqiza lokusembili.
When you choose your adventures, you do so with an open heart and a desire for the unexpected. You embark on journeys to discover new worlds full of wonder. You choose a path to awaken your senses, a world to make you look up and realize just how inspiring this life can be. Arrive and awaken your heart. Explore life in ways only thought possible in your dreams. Discover just how far you go to expand your understanding of life's greatest mysteries. There's just one place on this planet with so much to offer. Now is the time for you to have the royal experience.
Hi, I'm Golda. I work at the IMF. What is globalization? Well, think of it like a bridge between two countries. Now let's say This country is very good at growing flowers. It has the right soil and plenty of skilled farmers. And just across the river, that country loves flowers, but doesn't have the right soil to grow them. You can see where I'm going with this. With our bridge, trade has blossomed. This country makes money from selling flowers abroad, and that country can start new businesses and sell new products based on their newfound access to flowers. I mean, who doesn't love fresh flowers? Of course, it's not just flowers that can cross the bridge. It can be used to trade almost anything. Plus, there are pathways for investing, communicating, and exchanging ideas. And people can come and go too. Now, what does this have to do with globalization? Well, imagine bridges just like this, connecting countries all over the world, even countries on opposite sides of the planet. That's globalization. These bridges, these economic links, have made everything from food to electronics cheaper. And not just that, globalization has made the whole planet richer too, especially people in poorer countries. Over the past 30 years, 1.5 billion people have been lifted out of poverty. But this is only part of the story. While globalization has brought more benefits for more people than ever before, it's also true that not everyone has benefited from the increased wealth. For many people, it can appear the bridge is bringing more problems than flowers, and that the economy isn't working for everyone or every country. So what should we do? Well, the solution isn't to destroy our bridges or to throw out the rule book. That would leave us all poorer and less secure. So, do we maintain, rebuild, or redesign these bridges? Write new rules that help them to work better? Or search for new ways to ensure everyone can benefit? Probably all of the above. More than ever, we need international cooperation, countries working together, and the IMF working with its member countries to build the best possible bridges to get us to the future. That will not just be good for the economy, but good for people everywhere.
All right, welcome back and thank you for staying with us. You're still watching Kusile Breakfast Show. This is the Tuesday edition. Well, the Kingdom of Eswatini is about to step onto the global stage in a historic way. From the 2nd to the 7th of September, over 40 city leaders from across the world, stretching from the United States and Australia to South Africa, will convene right here in the Kingdom for the ICMA Global Exchange Program. Now, we want to understand that it is going to be beyond just the regular meetings that we normally see sometimes, but we are going to get into an agenda that looks into Eswatini being a hub of urban innovation, international cooperation, as well as investment opportunity. And at the center of it all is the Ngwe Directive, a call for courage, unity, and forward movement, as articulated by His Majesty the King. Now, the Sustainable Urban Development Seminar is set to run alongside the Eswatini International Trade Fair, which is currently underway. Of course, it started last week Friday, as well as strategic projects across our towns that are ready to be showcased. The stakes couldn't be higher. So this morning, we ask critical questions. How ready is Eswatini? What does this mean for our cities and communities? And what legacy will this leave behind? We have the Principal Secretary from the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development, Dr. Simon Zwane, who is not alone. He's with our friend from the United States, from the city of Lancaster, Texas, right? Vashon Ford, as we start our conversation. Doctor, maybe let me start with you. But before that, welcome to Eswatini, Vashon.
Thank you.
I hope that you've been enjoying your stay. You're in very capable and warm hands with Dr. Zwane here.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Eswatini has hosted regional gatherings before. I think we just had one recently under the Ministry of Agriculture a couple of months ago. But I don't think we've had an exchange program like this one where we see such global magnitude, but also city leaders from the US, Australia, South Africa, and beyond. From where you sit, how historic is this moment for our kingdom?
It is an amazing, opportunity that we are getting ourselves into as a country.
Right.
But I'm also very proud that this is happening within, the urban area. Ministry of Housing and Urban Development being at the center of that. But this is for the country. We've never seen such. Actually, for the ICMA to be hosted in Africa, it's for the first time. And it couldn't happen elsewhere. Like Eswatini.
I do want to ask Vashon, because he flew all the way from the USA, all the way into the kingdom of Eswatini. According to your perspective, what makes Eswatini worth having this kind of conversation with?
That is a wonderful question. I think what's important to truly understand about the relationship that the city of Lancaster has with the city of Manzini, our sister city, is that we have so many comparisons to each other. Regardless of us being across the sea, right, across the big pond from each other, we have so many similarities, a lot of the same challenges, but more so what was so fitting about being over here is the fact that you all have mastered the art of innovation while respecting culture and making sure that there's that balance of history and culture while still birthing innovation. You have mastered it.
I love that. Let me come back to you, Dr. Zwane. There's always going to be critics. And I think they are quick to say or to point out infrastructure gaps, particularly in conversations like this one. Hosting the world now raises the question, are we truly showcasing strength or are we patching over weaknesses? What would you say?
Well, it's a bit of both. A wise person always looks at what strengths do I have and makes sure that you move with that. But not ignoring your weaknesses, of course, because you need help to close those gaps. With regard to infrastructure development, I think the country has done a lot. It's just that we are too quiet about it. Comparing ourselves to other countries, we've done a lot in as far as infrastructure development. But of course, there's still some gaps which we need to continue to be closing them. And this also applies to our cities. There's a lot that is happening, and we believe that going forward, we will strengthen that so as to ensure that the infrastructure that we have, goes along with our development aspirations.
Vashon, your city of Lancaster has dealt with urban development from a different scale, as well as a different context altogether. But, you have articulated some similarities between the city of Lancaster and the city of Manzini. What would you say is really transferable, that which you see from a large city of Lancaster compared to a smaller town of Mbabane, Manzini, Hlangano? What is transferable that we can bring in?
There's so many. There's so many comparisons, but if we're looking at even challenges with infrastructure, we have the same issues, roadways, updating roadways. We have the same challenges in the states trying to make sure that there's money allocated to pay for those improvements to infrastructure. Those are all transferable. Those are all issues that all of us are trying to work through and trying to find sustainable solutions to it. And so with partnerships on this global scale, being able to have these conversations and talk about what's working in other places makes all the difference. That is why this is so important.
And I suppose because you are from a more developed sort of perspective and outlook, as well as environment, what lessons would you say you want to impart into the kingdom of Eswatini that we can take and say, you know what, we can try to catch up with these developed economies like your city?
Well, I think it all comes down to really what the community wants, right?
Okay.
This is community engagement. It's such a heavy piece in all of our infrastructure needs, all of our infrastructure wants, all of our development wants. If the community doesn't want a specific development,
right,
you're going to have challenges throughout the way. So I think one of the most important pieces that all of us want to impart is just the sustainable nature of it, planning for that future for our children, for our children's children. So whatever decisions that we make today have that effect on our future.
Two things that he's highlighting, Doctor. One is that we want to respond to the most urgent, let's say, gripes or impediments from the words of the society or the communities. But it should also be sustainable. It should be future-proofing. From where we stand as Eswatini and as the Housing and Urban Development Ministry, what are some of these most imperative and urgent issues that they are facing in our communities that they can help impart knowledge into?
Yeah, no, thank you so much. One needs to understand that a town or a city has specific roles that it plays in society, in development. And as he has said, you have to hear from the people. What exactly do they need? But of course, there are ones within that cluster. There are specific interests. You know, my minister usually says that in a city, you have so many interests. Everyone has interests. And you know, juggling those balls and ensuring that you respond effectively to those interests it's not an easy thing. But the most important thing is that you need to hear from the people what they want. And obviously, we have talked about infrastructure within the cities, within the towns. That's very important, and we have to respond effectively to that because it does enable development. It does enable a lot of things that are happening within the cities. So we will have to be, very much responsive to that. And we are trying as towns, as the ministry, to actually, respond to the development needs of the people as articulated by them, but also as articulated by our country's leadership. Yeah.
Vashon, it's an interesting thing that happens when two countries sit at a table, particularly when one is way more developed than the other. What tends to happen is that the smaller one tends to get overshadowed. How do we make sure that that doesn't happen?
I think that there's an art to it, right? I think that everyone that is coming in for this global exchange understands that we are learning from each other. This is not a one-sided partnership. This is not a one-sided collaboration. Again, one of the things that I noticed off the bat, this is my first time here in the kingdom, and the first thing that I noticed is the true respect that you have for the culture, but that innovation is still a key for it. That is something that even in the States, everyone is trying to accomplish, and you guys have accomplished that. And so that's a piece that we have to take back with us and learn from it. So I think being able to start the conversation, understanding that all of us are on the same playing field, we're here to learn.
Okay. Doctor, reading the brief about what will be happening from today until the 7th?
7th, yes.
I see that the Ngwe Directive, as articulated by His Majesty the King, takes center stage in everything that you want to do. Explain that to me in detail.
Yeah, so this being a global exchange, everybody is coming in with some input, with something for all of us to learn.
Right.
We've talked about innovation. What about sustainable development? Just a few weeks ago, the world converged at the UN talking about sustainable development. Where are we with that agenda? And that is very key, even for our cities, to have an exchange on that. What about the issue of rapid urbanization? Very, very important for us. The future is urban. How do we manage that so that as we urbanize, we do not jeopardize our future? Particularly with regard to the natural resources that we have. Climate change is another issue that needs to be put on the table, and we see how, we navigate our way through that. So there's a lot, of exchange and learnings that will be taking place. We are going to be having a symposium on Thursday, and we'll be discussing, such issues.
I made a list while doing my research yesterday of some of the most urgent as well as pressing urban development challenges in Eswatini. I want to list them, and from my list, I want you to then consolidate, perhaps in order, what you would deem the most urgent and ones that you would feel just from a technical perspective. These are the ones that we should address first, regardless of what the communities are saying, because sometimes you, as the technicons, you know what to respond to faster. So water supply and sanitation coverage gaps, those still exist in some cities. Then the solid waste management shortfalls. And then the stormwater drainage and flood risk in cities. I think that was really a thorn in Babane when we had those rains. Mr. Zwane, you will remember. And then there's conversations around affordable housing as well as informal settlements, the conversations that housing need outpaces supply, right? And then municipal capacity and financing constraints, that one has to be addressed. Climate resilience and urban infrastructure, you just spoke to that briefly. And then there's urban growth outpacing services. We need to speak to that as well. And then landfill capacity. And then the last one, which I think is very critical, policy and implementation gaps. If you were to take 2 or 3 out of these, which ones would you say, let's respond to these?
That's a tall order.
Yeah, it is. It is indeed.
Yeah, but looking at, the global issues that you have highlighted, I would say they are very important. But for me, you want to put first, proper governance.
Right.
Because out of that, you are able to then deal with the different issues more effectively when you have proper governance in place. And that's very critical. That's very critical. And therefore, now looking at the rest of the issues, each one of them has got its own merits in as far as importance is concerned. But, at the head of it, we must have good governance.
He's saying proper governance. Vashon, from everything that I've listed, what would you say, look, this is what we've done in the city of Lancaster. I know probably governance is where you started as well, because that then determines how everything else moves. But what else would you say?
I think, like the good doctor here said, that's a tall order to answer, because all of them are priorities, right? All of them are the keys to sustainability. And so I think the good doctor hit it right on the head. Proper governance, proper policy and service is going to be that key to really working through the rest of it.
Global conversations often die in boardrooms, and my hope is that this doesn't happen with this one, because the conference halls, the boardrooms, the talk shops, it normally just dies. What will it take to turn this from talk into reality, measurable change for citizens on both sides?
Yeah, so a very critical question. Someone said, as a country, we are very good at coming up with those kind of strategies. But when it comes to implementation, we have challenges.
I think that's the world.
So I think what we are going to do is that whatever learnings that we are going to glean from this, conversation, we will then see how it, it dovetails into, the programs that we have. For example, we have the government program of action. That's very key, which is basically short term. And then we are currently having a conversation on the grand plan. How does that get into that? Because if we're able to do that, then we can, be at a better position to say things will be implemented as these already have, monitoring mechanisms in place.
Vashon, I'm happy you're here, because this next question, I think, it lands better with you. We hear the word smart cities thrown around like a buzzword every too often, right? What does a smart city really look like in the context of Lancaster in the US? And what would it look like in Eswatini? Because for us, it's still an ambition.
Right. I'm happy you're asking him that question.
That is a great question to answer. I think smart cities look different globally, right, around the world. Really what smart cities truly means are innovative practices, right? It is taking these complex challenges or issues within that demographic and really finding very innovative solutions to deal with those challenges sustainably. Yeah. That is what a smart city truly is.
Doctor, from what he's saying, what would be a smart city for us in the short term? What would it look like?
I was hoping that that question would come to me, but I think we are still grappling with that definition for ourselves, to be honest. We're asking ourselves that very same question. What does a smart city will look like?
Sure.
How will it look like for the country?
Yeah.
And I want to believe that, global exchanges like these do help us to define what we will call a smart city in the long run.
Yeah. It's interesting indeed, because I think at the crux of it all is that it entails innovative solutions that respond to the needs of its people. And I think that's why you said they're different everywhere, because they have to address the unique challenges of the people that occupy those smart cities. Finally, as the world descends on Eswatini, what single message would you want each Liswati, each Maswati to carry with them about the significance of this moment from the both of you?
Yeah, thank you so much for that question as well. We need to understand, in its fullness, the importance of a town. A town is a living creature. Why is it important in a country's development? And, getting people all over the world to come and have conversations around that is very, very critical, and it will leave us hopefully different as we will be sharing, our learnings with every Liswati, so that our perspective of a town, is properly aligned to development, actual development of every Liswati in the country. Yeah.
How do you chime into that?
I think one of my biggest takeaways is understanding the true size of what is going on here. This is the first time ICMA has ever hosted something on the continent of Africa. And I think it is important to understand the magnitude of what's about to occur here. I am so excited to be a part of it. I am so humbled to be here in the kingdom. I am completely in love with the country all over. And I know within our sister cities partnerships that this will not be my last time here. I was already talking to my bosses about if we can buy a property here and what that process looks like.
That'd be cool to see. Well, thank you to the both of you, and all the best with this particular development. And I hope that, because this program runs until the 7th, right? Yes, we do have our Umhlanga main day on the 8th. I hope you're still around to at least enjoy that and experience that, because you did say what is similar about our two countries is that we're also just rich culturally, and that is a full culture on display for us in Eswatini on the 8th. Mr. Zwane, please make that happen for you.
Sure. They're in good hands.
Dr. Zwane and Vashon Ford, we are going to enjoy what we have been talking about in practice over the next couple of days. You have been watching Kusile Breakfast Show. This has been the Tuesday edition. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.